Leaders are gathering in the Russian city of Kazan ahead of the start of the annual BRICS summit, with Russian President Vladimir Putin seeking to maintain global influence despite isolation from the West. The conference brings together policymakers from Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. The alliance is rapidly expanding, with Iran, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt and Ethiopia joining earlier this year, and multiple other countries, including Turkey, formally applying to join. Russian President Vladimir Putin will also meet with United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Well, let's go more on the BRICS summit with our East Asia correspondent, Kathleen Calderwood. Kathleen, Vladimir Putin is hosting this summit in Russia, meaning he is able to attend in person. How significant is this for him to be seen with his counterparts?
Well, Garish, it's really significant. Last year he had to attend virtually because the summit was being held in Johannesburg, and South Africa, as a signatory to the International Criminal Court, would have been compelled to arrest him. Now, that's of course because the ICC has issued a warrant for Vladimir Putin's arrest, accusing him of being responsible for the transportation of Ukrainian children into Russia. So last year he decided it was safer and less complicated to attend virtually. This year, not only will he be there in person, he is in fact hosting this summit. So this is really an opportunity for him to say to the West, well, Russia and I are really not that isolated. Look at all these leaders from all over the world who have come here to take part in this meeting. Now, it's also giving him a key position as part of a platform that's really trying to present an alternative to a lot of Western-led institutions. And it's also an opportunity for Russia and Vladimir Putin to advance the idea of creating an alternative to the US dollar for trade, which would dampen some of those Western-led sanctions that are currently on Russia.
And I suppose one way that the Russian president is likely to use that platform is to signal his close ties with China. But Beijing might be less keen to do so, particularly against the backdrop of the war in Ukraine.
The close ties between China and Russia have been a significant issue in international politics now for a couple of years, especially since Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin announced that no-limits partnership not long before Russia launched its all-out invasion of Ukraine in 2022. And ever since, when these two men meet, there have been questions about will Beijing seek to distance itself a little bit from Russia, and to be quite frank, that hasn't happened, or not in any real way. Vladimir Putin has gone to China twice since the Ukraine war began. This is Xi Jinping's second time visiting Russia since the war began. In fact, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said that Xi Jinping was happily accepting the invitation to go to Russia to attend the BRICS forum. So certainly Russia needs China more than China needs Russia. And while China has sought to really cast itself as a neutral party when it comes to the Ukraine war, those several in-person visits compared to only phone communication between Xi Jinping and the Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky really calls that neutrality into question. We've also seen Ukraine and the US accuse China of continuing to beef up or fund the Russian military industrial base. Recently, the US put sanctions on two China-based countries, saying that they are supplying drones to Russia, but these are accusations that China has long denied.
And as I mentioned earlier, the bloc has a number of new members, while the UN Secretary General will also be attending. What does this say about this BRICS grouping?
Yes, so as you mentioned, in addition to the original members, China, Brazil, Russia, India and South Africa, there are 4 new members this year in Egypt, Iran, Ethiopia and the UAE. There are also reportedly 20 to 30 more countries seeking membership. Xi Jinping has already arrived in Russia to attend the summit. South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa is also expected, and India's Narendra Modi. So many people in the West seek to sort of dismiss this bloc, saying that it's too broad of a group with too disparate range of interests, some really wanting to push that anti-Western bent while others are less interested in that. But ultimately, this bloc represents a huge proportion of the global population, 46% of the world's population. It also represents a third of the globe's GDP, although more than half of that is represented by China. So this is something that's certainly growing in importance and relevance, bringing all these different countries together.
And speaking of the major powers, just before this summit even begins, India and China have apparently struck a deal over patrolling of their contested border.
That's right. This is really significant news, particularly being announced on the eve of this summit. The two countries have been fighting over a disputed border in the Himalayas for some time now. Since 2020, at least 24 soldiers, mostly Indians, have been killed in clashes over this disputed border. So India's foreign minister yesterday announced that an agreement had been reached on how China and India would patrol this region, saying that it had led to a resolution of the issues along the border. Now, the foreign minister did not confirm if Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi would be having an official bilateral meeting while they were in Russia together, but it's certainly this de-escalation does suggest that that's more likely. It is worth noting, I think, that while obviously this kind of de-escalation is positive news, it does really challenge some of those assumptions that this bloc is not going to have much unity, that it's too disparate, because it shows that even really hot issues, really controversial issues like this border dispute between two of the largest members of the bloc, really, if they can be resolved in the lead up to a summit like this, it does go to indicate that perhaps there can be negotiations and agreements reached and a greater show of unity throughout the bloc.
Okay, East Asia correspondent Kathleen Calderwood, thanks very much.